The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall continue to follow me all the days of this protracted experience of death, and I will dwell in the house of the most super intelligent power, source, and force of love and creation forever. What's happening? Benton here, leaving a warehouse in wherever the fuck I am, Romeoville, Illinois, somewhere in the greater Chicago area. I see my tracks in the snow from when I drove in yesterday about 6 p.m. And a little bit more snow fell apparently overnight. A little bit of ice on the windshield, nothing too crazy. The windshield wipers took care of it. It's just traffic. You mean I actually have to sit here and wait for these bozos? This is crazy. What are we doing? Slight loss of traction coming to a stop. Going to put most of that up to the cold tires. We got snow on the road, and we're sliding. All right, fantastic. I do love the two cars out of nowhere as soon as I get to the main road, though. That's surrealistic, what waking dream, surrealistic, unreality, deja vu all over again. Not another road, not another car in sight. Probably won't see anybody. Funny how that works. Perfectly. Two cars here, perfectly to ruin my little trip to the interstate. How do they know? Who dispatches them? Snow coming up off the top of the trailer. There's a snow plow. I am going a little too fast for conditions. That's all right. It's funny, even when I'm going too fast, I'm still probably more prudent than a lot of folks. Funny how that works. Yeah, winter storm. I didn't catch your name. Gigantic winter storm, whatever they're calling this thing. Look at these bozos stopping for a red light. What are you doing? I ain't stopping. Headed west through Iowa to avoid as much of the ice as possible. ice storm in Arkansas and Texas, parts of Texas, not all of it, parts of Texas. Woo! Sliding some more, sliding away. And that's my skills when, especially when there's no vehicles around. Of course, I look up at a red light. There's a truck and a car just sitting there, or is that just a truck? Why are you sitting there, buddy? It's 2 a.m. He's going. No, he's not. Yes, that's what you're supposed. Oh, he's right on red. Like, buddy, just go. Never mind. He was lost. He didn't know where to turn in. All is forgiven, sir. All is forgiven. Oh, that's a big road. Run it. See, they're going to stop. In my world, winter driving, the rules change. I would have just sat here and watched them go by. Like, hey, y'all got your momentum going. Just make sure I'm not taking off and fucking go. Now they're going to sit there like good little slaves. They're making a left, so that makes a little more sense. Half the problems in the winter weather is we all think we're gonna stop and shit. Like, yeah, probably not. This is why we drive as early as we can. Have the road to myself. I'm in the middle of two lanes right now. Fuck them. What are they gonna do? You can't see the lines anyway. There's no cars around me. Freedom, goddammit. Freedom. Okay, good. We're almost to the interstate. Let me make sure we're still on the route, the proper route here. Where the fuck are we going? Yeah. Okay, good. All right. I like his style. He ain't scared. All-wheel drive Hyundai car. He's just motoring. I said, well, Benton, we'd like to see what you're talking about. Well, I don't have the right type of cameras. It doesn't really translate on a cell phone. Half a mile to the big road. I'm actually surprised this road's as covered as it is, though. They're waiting until 6 a.m. to start most of the plowing, I reckon. Although there's a plow. Some of them's out all night. There's just not enough of them, I guess. That's got two plows on it. Hell yeah, she had one on the front and one on the side. Hell yeah, multitasking. But no snow in Iowa on I-80, so we're going that way down to through Kansas, which is not the normal route. Not that there's a normal route to Abilene. We're going to Abilene, Texas, where uncharacteristically, perhaps, they're more known to get snow out there, in my experience, than ice. But they had some ice, which I'm hoping is mostly gone by the time I get down there. Hoping we're avoiding Arkansas mostly because, other than the main routes, the locals aren't going to be driving on any of the side roads or anything. And it is the weekend, depending on the traffic on the interstates. And the temperatures are low enough. I know from experience, it's not going to, even if it thaws in the daytime, it's just going to freeze right up again. It'll be like a few days of freezing and thawing and freezing and thawing until, again, no treating of the roads other than like northwest Arkansas. So we'll be better off dealing with the snow in the states where they're a little more used to snow. But this ain't looking great. Now I'm on I-55, headed 12 miles down to. Oh, I forgot to get the snow off the headlights. I just realized in my haste to leave, we got diminished visibility due to the. You just stop and get the snow off the headlights. They didn't do shit yesterday. It doesn't look like, as far as yesterday evening. Doesn't. Well, this is getting a little better. Up to 45 now. Another snowplow. That's the third one we've seen. I don't know. It may not be much of a live stream. It may just be me watching the road. My research indicates it should all be clearing up. Shouldn't have to go too far west out of Chicago. Sparks coming up off the plow there. See, I'm going 46. There's a lot of truckers be going 60 in this. Let's see what's he doing on the other side. Yeah, he's doing every bit of 55. Got a load of mail. U.S. hauling the U.S. mail. 3 stops. Abilene. Doxing myself a little bit, but I guess it doesn't really matter. I'll just leave it at Abilene. Although if somebody really was determined, they could probably figure out the other two, but it's all right. I ain't scared, but I'm not trying to invite no shenanigans neither. Oh, man. Got to run the defrost. A little bit of precipitation coming down. Keep the windshield wipers clear. Failed to put more windshield washer fluid. Probably could have done that for now. Oh well. That rig was going about the speed I about 50 or 45. Nine degrees on the dashboard. Once the snow clears, I'll be able to actually run my yap a little more. So be on the lookout for that. Yeah, I figured it just wasn't worth avoiding the areas that have ice, and I believe we're mostly avoiding any sort of elevation changes, appreciable changes, up and down, up and down. There'll be some of that, I'm sure, but I was originally going to go Kansas City to Joplin I think we're going Kansas City to Wichita or Topeka to Wichita. Yeah, I know Kansas City got a fair amount of snow, but based on what I saw, there's like this whole east-west stretch where pretty much everything got snow, but I-80's above that. So should be looking good up to about 50 miles an hour now. Wish I'd put a little few more layers of Rain-X on the windshield. That Rain-X does wonders in the ice and snow as well on the windshield. Single layer, I don't know, before it got down below freezing, whatever that was. I don't think it hasn't. I haven't been where it was above freezing since maybe 5 days ago. Well, during it got to like 45 during my days off. It was below freezing before that. And that was only like half a day. No cars out, no car in front of me, none behind me. I'm trying to stay in this pocket where I can just cruise. Once they catch me, I'm probably gonna have to slow down unless they're really cooking. 50 tires should be warming up. That helps. Most of that sliding around earlier was cold tires. This is the overpass, so we're just gonna go ahead and slow down, even though I don't see any ice. It's a mixed bag with winter driving because overall, I think the daytime's probably the way to go, but depending on how many people are driving, you get into the advantages of less traffic and less bullshit at night, especially coming through a city. Although it's what, Sunday morning? I don't know. It'll be by the time I get to Kansas City, that won't be a factor anyway. I looked at the Google Maps the road conditions before I went to sleep last night. Pretty much everything was fucked. Arkansas didn't look that bad on the Google Maps, but I know from experience, well, people ain't on the roads. But you look at the Arkansas highway, like their website, it was pretty much all the roads were pretty fucked, pretty well fucked. Yeehaw. Hmm. Oh, and as you know, I'm getting the trailer loaded yesterday. Like even if there weren't a winter storm, it's impossible to make these deliveries. Again, it's just in time. You know, it's all the loads designed around the trucker has to have a full clock and pretty much be leaving to start his shift. The minute the minute they hand over the paperwork, and then pretty much everything has to go right to even physically make it to the appointment. Like, why or what? So all three deliveries are on the same day, and that's the day I'll get to Abilene, I'm pretty sure. Whoa, this shit ain't been hit in a minute. Yeah, they're smart too. Where they run plows, they'll wait. They'll wait until it's done snowing to really clean everything up. In my experience, they'll just do the minimum in the meantime. I'm surprised. I wasn't expecting it to be as bad as what I'm driving on right now. And you got when the temperatures have been so low for so long, it amplifies the effect of whatever falls because you can't. The traffic doesn't really warm the road up. You know what I mean? It's been too fucking. Same thing in Arkansas. It's been too fucking cold for too many days. I had my dispatcher all worried, trying to rush me because he pulled some favors to be able to have me go back to Chicago and get freight, the undeliverable freight. Uber Freight fucked us. Surprise, surprise. When you try to do trucking with a gig app and an algorithm and an AI assistant calling to harass Benton at 7:30 a.m. or no 6:30 a.m. So here's what the AI and the gig economy does to trucking. It dispatches the trucker to where he can't physically make it by 4 p.m. on Friday, which is they will not. If it's if they can't put the fork into the pallet at 3:59, they're not unloading, and you can't. There's nothing you can do to change their mind. They're going home for the weekend, and God bless them. I respect it because that's the only way to have family time and a life is to just say, look, we don't work beyond this point. Fuck you. Just like I've talked about it before, working at the computer store in Bentonville years ago, decades ago now, and we were open from like 8 a.m. to noon on Saturday, which is a bit absurd because folks aren't necessarily up and about too much, but have somebody pull into the parking lot at 11:55 and the confused look on their face because we're all out there getting in our cars. And they're like, "What?" But I need this thing, and the owner's just kind of laughing. Well, we'll see you Monday. And just drives off. I love it. Like fuck yeah. I mean, I would stay and help them, except I don't have the authority or the keys, or I don't give a fuck. But I like that spirit of I don't know what to tell you, man. If he would have got in the door at 11:50 before we walked out, I'm sure we would have tried to help him. Or we would have said, well, there's just not enough time, sir. We can't diagnose your computer in the next 10 minutes. It's going to take 10 minutes to boot up with all the viruses you're likely to have on that motherfucker. Meanwhile, you probably ain't paying that whatever the rush fee would have been, so we'd look at it right away. Oh, they caught me finally. We're almost to I-80. So yeah, the algorithm dispatches me, and then again, it wouldn't have mattered because it was physically impossible to get there by 4 on Friday, but which I actually don't think they unload past about 10 a.m. I think they load until about 4, but I'm not exactly sure. And closed. Oh, it's east. I was about to say I-80 east closed. At least the interchange is ramp closed. All right, well, we're going west. That makes me wonder. Did something happen? Maybe there was, I don't know. They put that's probably road construction, which is it says it on the actual sign. Hmm. And then, so I'm 30 minutes away when the fucking AI assistant calls me at 6:30 wanting to have me confirm a bunch of information. Most likely because on some level it understands that it's sending me to where I'm not going to be able to get unloaded, and then my company is going to duke it out with the broker to try to get paid, and Uber Freight's going to say, "Nope, we ain't paying you nothing. At least we're not paying anything extra." And this thing's going to end up being so late that whatever fee my company, the trucking company, ends up getting will be, you know, peanuts, I'm sure. Actually, that's not true because it turned out the dispatcher said he's got somebody who can cover it. So, but they've at least the algorithm at least increased the chances of having to pay less. And see, that's what these algorithms do. And I've been, watching some YouTube channels, not because I give a fuck about the gig economy, but when something enters my feed, if it interests me, I just listen to it. I mean, I'm not particular. And people who've worked for these gig apps, I've heard several people mention slowing way down for the interchange here. And I've heard several people mention, and some of them are pretty smart. Like there's this real smart, sharp black fella he grew up in San Francisco, lives in San Francisco. And he mentioned it, and a couple other people mentioned that especially Uber, but I think they all do this. They've worked it out to where it's $18 an hour. That's just what you're going to get paid. And then, as you know, there's expenses that come out of that. So it's like, there's minimum wage restaurants and all of this minimum wage. Okay, well, how about the algorithm puts everybody on a 1099 and figures out how to pay them, so that even if somebody tries to class action lawsuit them, it'll be like, well, it all averaged out to minimum wage, state minimum wage, somewhere around $18 an hour. But then with all the gas and the other expenses, vehicle expenses, and the no paying of benefits, it's actually, they're effectively getting the leverage of less than minimum wage, if you think about it. And that's what these algorithms, and again, it's all the John Nash game theory optimal in conjunction with the way markets behave. So now we're applying that to trucking for many years now, probably. When I started in 2018, Snyder National was just switching over to computerized scheduling. So I was in like one of the early beta programs for the computer assigned me my loads. All right, car, you got to pass me or you got to back off. See, this is how people cause accidents because they don't have any discipline. See, now it's decide, car, are you going to pass me or are you going to back off? You're not going to suck up the ass of my trailer and ride me to the promised land. We're not doing that. So you're going to pass me or you're going to back off. Pick one. You're not riding the bumper of my trailer. Sorry. Because people don't know how to drive and they don't understand decision making. You caught up to me, sir. You're going faster. Therefore, you're going faster than me. So what is safe in this scenario? What's safe would be to speed up past me if you can pull it off, or slow down and back off. His choice was to slow down and attach to my rear bumper, which is probably the least safe option, assuming he's not got the balls to go fast long enough to pass me, which is what I would have done. But that's the same person that's going to tell me to be safe. It's like, well, okay, I mean, you're not safe on the roads, but I am, but I'm always safe on the road. I don't really need. So I've got unsafe driver telling me to be safe, and I'm never not safe driver. That's your America today, right? Well, we paid it lip service through rhetoric, so everything's fine. Nothing to do here. We don't need to attempt to overcome our own human condition now and discipline ourselves and exercise critical thinking skills in real time. And no need to do any of that when we can attach to a tractor trailer's bumper in a fucking ice storm. Well, in a winter storm that may prove historic, although probably not in Chicago. And there's already been multiple, like 50 to 150 vehicle pileups. Well, how do you not end up in a pileup? Don't tailgate. Don't follow other vehicles. Always leave proper visibility. Always have a proper following distance. How can there be a pileup? There can't. Benton just eliminated pileups. If everybody did that, they don't. I'll get there when I get there. Now we got big truck catching us. See what he wants to do to us. You see, he's smart. He's already getting in position to pass. See, he said, fuck it. I'm super trucker. Here I come. All right, buddy. I'll drop a few MPHs and get over for you. This is now, see, we're going to teamwork this thing without me having to slow down to 26. I'll drop 5 miles an hour. I'll get over into the area of less traction temporarily. He'll cruise on through at about 55. The super ego has got him running ragged, chasing his tail. Let's see. And since America loves to ban things and tell everybody what to do, fucking just tell the cars y'all can't go nowhere between. Give them a curfew, 8 p.m. to fucking 6 a.m. Stay off the motherfucking roads. Big trucks, have at it. Enjoy yourselves. Because hypothetically, y'all know how to drive, but I guess the government knows that ain't the case. Giving out a bunch of credentials to unqualified drivers, that's also America. And if you think a Democrat created that, you're out of your fucking mind. Only a moron thinks like that. And I got no patience for it. Because I've got pattern recognition. And I've seen it. Every time, you can't mention this, it's immediately Biden's poopy diaper and, Democrats. Anybody that thinks the government has given out credentials to non-qualified big truck drivers is a fucking moron. They're either a moron out of the box or they're choosing to be a moron. Same fucking thing. That's asinine, ass 10, ass 11. Shout out to Sean P. Rest in power, brother. Sean P. That's just the dumbest. It's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Oh, because if there weren't Democrats and if corporations wanted to conspire with the government to hand out bad credentials, that could never happen unless there's Democrats. Are you crazy? Because I know in Arkansas, they haven't been enforcing this English language thing, and it's been standard practice for years now in Arkansas when the people who don't speak English drive into the way stations and get inspected. The fact that they don't comprehend or speak a lick of English, they're just sent on their way for years now. And I've seen the body cam where day one of getting the fucking direct orders in Arkansas, the DOT, Hey, y'all got to enforce this English language proficiency. I saw the body cam. Here's the fucking. They're in the chicken coop at the weigh station. DOT man picks up the phone, kind of sighs, a little bit, calls the supervisor or whatever, and he said, "Yeah, I know today's the first day of out of service for non-English and certain types of where it's basically mandatory out of service." So he's asking how to do his job. A woman, so a grown ass man had to call a woman to find out his supervisor to find out how to do his job in Arkansas, which is supposedly one of the biggest Trump states there is. So you tell me what the fuck's going on. How did a Democrat create all that? So now you want me to believe without a Democrat none of this ever would have happened? Fuck you. You're a moron if you believe that. And I don't mean you, the listener. That's a dumb person's way of thinking. That's just stupid. I don't know what you're doing back there, trucker, but I'm going as slow as I got to go to get you to pass me, Bubba. If you're going to that rest area, you're going 35 miles an hour for a mile. Rest area 1 mile. Well, if you want to go 30, so how come 50 on my ass is safe, but you can't go 50 to pass me? That's what I'd like to know. See, he don't know how to drive. You don't know how to drive, sir. I think that might be a foreigner hauling flatbed. I want to inspect his load securement. Because here's why nobody gets to tailgate me, because if the shit goes down, the last thing I'm thinking about is what's behind me. I don't even want to have to look when it's evasive maneuver time. I want to. I want to be able to be. I want to be reasonably certain there ain't nothing back there. Because next thing you know, I'm fighting a trailer and a fishtail. Oh, look, there was a four-wheeler back there the whole time, and now he's in the mix trying to get sideswiped by a trailer so he can call the fucking injury lawyer. Get a check. That's your America, folks. Gigantic billboards on the interstate trying to entice people into getting entangled with big rigs so they can call the fucking hammer and hammer a check. That's America. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Fuck this country. Now, not the people, not the wonderful geography. The government. Fuck the government. Fuck the corporations. Fuck the president, whoever it may be. Fuck every seated politician at every level of government. They're illegitimate. They lack justice. They lack authority. They're evil. They're wicked. They're fallen and they rule over you while people laugh and cackle and blame it all on Biden's poopy diaper because they can't face the horror of what they've become. What they've become. Now, see, I get to practice what I preach. I'm catching up to a car. I can slow down and follow at a safe distance, or I can speed up and pass. But if I just go by my stupid emotions, next thing you know, I'm following them too close, hoping they'll speed up. Now, if they slow down enough, I might be able to pass it. Let's see. Yeah, they got over for me. They're on the motherfucking shoulder. All right. Well, could be drunk. All right. See, I'm passing them. Now, don't y'all start speeding up. Now, see, here's human nature to start speeding up. I think what's happened is I've actually overestimated the snowplow effect. This is starting to be the argument for the southern route, but in order to avoid Arkansas, I'd still have to go through the Ozarks. So overall, I think we made the best choice. Kansas City, so west to Des Moines, south to KC, southwest to Topeka, south to Wichita, but not. So then southwest again to Wichita Falls, Texas, and then southwest to Abilene. Take advantage of the numerous interstate quality roads in Texas. And now I'm catching flat better. See? Yeah. So he's probably been driving, and he's, again, they're outlawing it up, exceeding the hours of service, right? Distracted driving, not pulling over for rest. I'm fucking well rested. I just woke up hour and a half ago. Been driving for 41 minutes. And there's enough technology, This is the way the system wants it for its own benefit. Again, back to the Uber Freight example, right? So you simultaneously got the AI harassing me at 6:30, and dotting its I's and crossing its T's so it can, contractually fuck over the carrier as much as possible on the rate potentially. So if it's got 100 loads like this, and it says, well, fuck it, 25 of them, we'll just intentionally send them there at the wrong time, and then we'll technicality their ass, and then we'll our customer the customer may not give a fuck if the freight gets there a week late, which normally doesn't happen, but because a lot of companies, they just wouldn't have, like an owner operator wouldn't necessarily have a way to just go drop a trailer and get a different empty trailer and keep on trucking, right? And just say, well, fuck them. If they're going to find me out the ass, I'll just, I'll deliver this shit a whole week late. A lot of people, once it's on the fucking trailer, they're fucked. So in this case, the company was willing to take an L on the fuel and whatever they're paying me, So the company probably ate close to $1,000 to go pick this load up, drive it to the place it was. So it was physically where it was supposed to be, to only then drive it almost all the way back to where it came from, to have it unloaded. Oh, they paid money. They're still, it's a favor, but they're still paying money, right? Like they have a relationship with this warehouse, but it's not for free. So they're paying money to have it unloaded into a warehouse. And then at some point over the weekend, one of this same company's empty trailers is going to go in there and have it loaded. And then they're going to drive the same fucking product, 4 hours north back to the same place in Wisconsin. So what's this going to? It's $1,500, right? In a motherfucking snowstorm. And so you think Uber Freight, the software, hasn't made all these calculations? Of course it has. And it's doing maximum damage with plausible deniability to these smaller motor carriers. And so when y'all, not you, the listener, but when Americans defend capitalism That's what they're defending. They're defending the boot stamping on a human face forever. And they say, "Oh, well, what do you want? Communism, socialism?" I don't know. Did I say that? I can't critique capitalism without signing myself on to communism. Like, when did that happen? Now we're about to have a wreck because motherfuckers up here can't drive. Are you turning, sir, or what are you doing? He's got a signal on. Okay, that never mind. Yeah, he's turning. He's just still following a little too close. Oh, flatbedder don't mind a little tailgating in the snow. Does it snow in fucking New Delhi? I don't know. It's tropical, right? Do they? I don't think they get snow over there. Maybe up in the mountains, I guess. There's no cows in City of Industry. That's an inside joke. Y'all wouldn't get that. That was a schizophrenic experience in a psychotic episode in Isla Vista, California, near the UCSB campus. He was spurging out, and a milk truck went by, and he raised it. He shook his fist at the milk truck and yelled, "There's no cows in City of Industry," which is a city in Southern California. I thought to myself, well, fair enough. You're right, sir. There most likely are not any cows in City of Industry. Is that? I think what he was implying is that's not milk, but who knows? Passing a four wheeler. I think that's the first one of the day, I believe. Of course, they just got on the road. They're going to speed up eventually. They just haven't figured it out yet. They'll probably be passing me in the next 5 minutes. They're already trying to settle in on my ass. I see back there. You want to ride my butt? You're going to have to earn it. 55, 56. I think that's about as brave as we can get right about now. I just got to be careful for the overpasses. I feel like I'm good at 55 on the actual ground, but 55 is going to be a little too fast for the overpass. All right, see, here's an overpass snuck up on me. I'm going 59 miles an hour. That's what I'm talking about. It was brief, though. A little bridge over a creek. Actually, I think this looks worse than it is. The roads seem to have a fair amount of track. Let me hit the brake and see what happens. Yeah, it's not too bad. Stopping distance is certainly less than normal. Or greater distance. So required to stop. And see, I've been seeing this. What I'm talking about with Uber Freight here, I've been seeing this sort of thing for years now in a lot of different arenas of employment, business, you know, finance. It's systematized, right? It's all of these corruptions built into the system, and at the end of the day, if we're calling it capitalism, the big money gets the little money every time. In the long run, the big money always gets the little money, right? And given enough trials and enough time, and that's what happens with corporations. The venture capital comes in, the angel investors, and they drive the price up, stock price up. You get all this investment, and then the sheer bulk and might of the corporation is able to steamroller over a lot of these. Again, there's like this mom and pop trucking company. Uber Freight is just basically because it can. It's inflicting financial damage onto a family man, a married family man from Eastern Europe who's doesn't even particularly have a desire to own and operate a trucking company, from what I can tell, but who has an aptitude, and he's good at it as far as I can tell, and he's recognizing that he wants to try to make a certain amount of money, and he's probably trying to retire by a certain age, or you know at least not be dependent on busting his ass day in and day out, right? And this is the method he's chosen, and you can tell he's willing to accept more, whatever the fuck he's smart. If I can figure it out, he's smart enough to understand what the fuck Uber Freight's doing to him. And see, if he was making all the decisions, if he was able to dispatch all the loads, he would probably only ever use Uber Freight under certain circumstances. He would understand, well, wait a minute, Saturday delivery to a farm in Wisconsin, and it's negative 10 degrees. And by the way, they don't give a fuck about the temperature, but as we've seen, but that's probably a no-go. And in fact, that was the first words out of my dispatcher's mouth when he began to understand that there's no fucking way they're unloading that truck on the weekend. He said, he said, yeah, the owner told me to be on the safe side. And again, this is the Eastern European bullshit artist culture. The guy got a direct order or a strong suggestion, like, hey, you're running. It's up to you, but you're running the risk if you try to pull off a delivery on Saturday. You're running the risk of the truck get kidnapped all weekend, which will then cause the cancellation of the freight I was supposed to pick up yesterday. Right? That was the first words out of his mouth. I just kind of laughed to myself, like, yeah, I get it, buddy. I understand the aspects of risk taking. See, I'm taking a risk looking like a fool if something goes wrong. I'll be like, well, why the hell did you go that way? It's like, well, I got my reasons, but I understand it looks like a stupid decision now that and I shouldn't even talk that way. That wouldn't be manifesting, but there's really no reason to entertain that thought experiment further. But the point I'm making is my gut instinct. I checked with my gut instinct about 5 different times, and this is what it told me to do. So, and in fact, the first alternate route I chose, then I got to rethinking it, and my gut was like, well, wait a minute, that's section from KC to, down to Joplin is, somewhat mountainous because Joplin's technically in the Ozarks, right? Just barely, but it is. Like, well, so then I'm looking at now for whatever reason, the phone's giving me, I switch over to prefer freeway instead of optimal and quickest, and now it's giving me alternate routes that avoid Joplin. It's like, oh, okay, well, you got Topeka and Wichita, but then it's still wanting me to send me through Fort Worth, and I'm like, well, Fort Worth could still be icy, and those people are out of their minds at DFW. They crash when it rains. You can just imagine what they do when the roads are icy. And so this route avoids DFW entirely. There's one wreck in the right place in DFW, and that's half a day. I'll just be sitting on the highway for half a day. Been there, done that. And the less traffic and the bigger size of road, I like my chances of driving around whatever happens. Because, yeah, I could, what is this, 1,100 miles? Well, 1111. It's 1,111 miles from here to the first drop. Of course it is. Waking dreams, surrealistic, unreality, deja vu all over again. But, yeah, it's possible for me to drive all of that with absolutely nothing happening. But, wouldn't be unusual if at some point I had to make a maneuver. Rather not be doing that on a fucking icy overpass in DFW. You dig? And I slept on it. Hell, I did half this, I did most of the planning yesterday, route planning. Slept on it, woke up this morning, spent about 20 minutes looking at everything. Yeah, this is the way to go, man. This is what we're doing. Reminds me of my first year with Snyder. Being from Arkansas, and we were still using, their software for routing as rookies, and here's that car call. See, this is probably that same car. I knew they'd catch up to me. They were just scared because of they had just gotten on the road. Y'all not following me. I don't know what to tell you. You about to follow me onto a shoulder if you think you're following me. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. You passing me, buddy. You are not following me. Sorry. Same car. As predicted. Road's already better, or less bad, I should say. But yeah, you can't even critique capitalism without. Why am I signing myself on to communism? Why? I can't critique capitalism. How about abolish corporations and keep capitalism? I mean, and I'm not even suggesting that. I'm saying, has anybody done that thought experiment? Did you know that in America, there weren't corporations. Then, as that became legal initially, Well, okay, you can form a corporation on a temporary, short-term basis and only within specific boundaries for specific reasons. And once the mission is accomplished, you've got to disband the corporation. It becomes defunct. Now, a corporation is most often associated with what? Branding, right? And people love their corporation. Just like the Brave New World, they will love their slavery. I think that was Julian, not Aldous, but either way. They love their corporate slavery. They love their corporate overlord. So to critique capitalism, it's like talking bad about their wife or their girlfriend. You know, they're not going to tolerate that. They say, "What are you, a faggot?" I mean, that's what that is. So, you know, I'm have a valid criticism of their girlfriend and how she treats them, and so they're in their mind, I'm somehow pushing for homosexuality. So their first words out of their mouth is, are you a proponent of a gay marriage then?" It's like, well, wait a minute. I'm just talking about your wife, buddy. Which, yeah, fair enough. But, you know, criticism of her treatment of you. I mean, I can't even bring it up without being accused of faggotry or being accused of communism. That seems like a bit of an inappropriate response, doesn't it? If it's actually American patriotism, I mean, you're probably not really supposed to accuse your fellow Americans of being potential communists. I mean, isn't that what McCarthyism was? Right? The Reds, couple of different Red scares. And are you suggesting to me that there are not elements of communism alive and well in America for many decades now? Because I'm not signing that document. I'm not signing off on that one. No, sirree, Bob. I saw a billboard for Jersey Mike's, and it had a picture of a foot long sub cut into four different portions, and it says lunch, dinner, right? In bold, big, bold letters over the top of the sandwiches. And so I think what they're telling you is it's not one meal, it's not one $20 meal, it's $4 or $5 meal, right? It's lunch and dinner. Let's just cut to the chase, and it should just say slop, affordable slop you can afford. Call the pigs to the trough. Oink oink. But yeah, you should have seen me yesterday. The dispatcher was because his inside man at the warehouse, you know, wanted to go home at 3, and so he's wanting to know when I'm going to be there. But if you ask me for ETA, I'm adding time. And then I said, well, I probably need to stop for fuel, and the dispatcher's trying to talk me out of stopping. And again, my gut instinct was telling me to go ahead and get fuel out in the boonies. And meanwhile, it's extreme weather. I need to keep the tanks full as much as possible. A lot of things could happen. Power outages, fuel outages, you know, weather related problems, problems with the truck. It's just better to keep the fucking tanks full. Man, I was in and out of that motherfucker in 10 minutes, and that included having to go in and get some anti-gel fuel treatment, which probably wasn't even necessary, but went ahead and did it anyway, as ordered by the company. Although I don't think I don't think it's going to get cold enough from here on out. I didn't want to dilute what was already in the tank, so it was like, fuck it. Man, I was in and out of there in 10 minutes. If you include the time from exiting the interstates and the time I got back up to speed, it was no more than 15 minutes. And I still got to the warehouse 15 minutes quicker than I thought I would have, even if I hadn't stopped for fuel. That dude was, he had that truck unloaded and was ready to go before 3 p.m. And my, dispatcher, he don't really know me. And I'm like, because his worry is a lot of these truckers, man, and this shows you what a trucker is. If they say they're stopping for fuel, what they mean is they're about to go fuck around at the truck stop for an hour. And I'm like, no, what I mean is I'm pulling in, and if I see every fucking fuel island is jam-packed and they're waiting in line, if I could bust a U-turn and get back on the interstate, I'm busting a U-turn and getting back on the interstate, buddy. And, if it's physically possible for me to get in and out in 10 minutes, I'm getting in and out. I don't fuck around. That's what I told him. I said, I don't fuck around, man. I don't know what you're used to. Benton don't fuck around when it's time to work. We're working. And yeah, I'll run my yap and I'll complain and whine and cry when the job's done. Or when they're trying to talk me into some bullshit. When it's go time, we shut the fuck up and work. Metaphorically shut up and work. Yeah, this was definitely the right choice in the short run, because this road's, it took a little longer than I thought, but and I wouldn't call it clear, but my lane, the right lane, is mostly clear. An hour into the journey, I'm up to 60. So yeah, this is looking pretty good. And I don't anticipate, should be mostly clear all the way to KC. And then it didn't look too bad beyond that, from what I could tell. We're getting a little loose. Yeah, 65, we're getting a little loose, meaning we're starting to lose a little traction. Now we're onto an overpass. See, that's part of driving skill, is the moment the rig starts losing traction. Some people just can't tell. They can't feel it. I felt we started floating a little bit. And I just know, the first thing we do, we take off the fuel pedal, and we don't do any unnecessary turning of the wheel. We wait to see what happens. And then we adjust from there. And that's why we don't let a bunch of cars be around us. Because in case, what if I had started sliding? Well, I got this big old road with nothing in the way to get. Now I got an opportunity to get control back. When you see one of these bozos in the median or rolled over somewhere, they went through a time period when they could have avoided that potentially. It's their job to manage their space to where, even if they get it down to a coin flip, well, hey, that's a 50-50. better than just a night. Some of the way some people drive, it's not. Once the shit goes wrong, they're 95% going in the ditch or rolling over or both, jackknifed in the fucking median. Now they got the fence. You know, they got the metal poles with the cables on one side of the interstate because these in the old days, you know, yeah, people would trucks would mostly end up jackknifed in the median, but you know now they're like, well, fuck you. If you meet our fence, we're gonna tear your shit up. I know we're gonna have to send a heavy wrecker for you. We might as well tear your shit up, keep you off the other side of that interstate. Because hell, the foreigner, you know, they'll just keep going. They'll wipe out a family. They'll go and you know when I'm talking about foreigners, you know, I err on the side of not talking about them. But let's just call it what it is. Culturally, they'll fucking yeah, an American will be watching TikTok and plowing to stop traffic, but they'll stop. And I've seen the body cam. They'll stop and participate with the, you know, they'll try to render aid. And they'll call 911. The foreigner will crash into a bunch of shit and just keep going if they physically can, and they'll just act all confused, you know, down the road. You know, if they get caught, because remember that first bozo that in Florida that kind of kicked this whole thing off, that Pajit or whatever. I don't know what we're calling them. Again, I'm not going out of my way to be offensive, but you know, if the shoe fits, motherfuckers, that he did that insane fucking U-turn and you know, killed that family, if that even happened. And then somehow he took his happy ass all the way back to California. That was one of the first things I noticed. I was reading these stories. I had this motherfucker get back to California. He just stood around looking lost and confused. And I don't know if that thing was drivable, but you know, maybe the truck was and the trailer wasn't, but he drove his happy ass back to California from Florida. You know, they had to go get his ass in Cali. I'm pretty sure. I don't remember exactly. Or he turned himself in locally, maybe. They came and got him, took him to Florida. Like this Dumbo American that was watching the phone and crashed into stop traffic. He, you know, he tried to play it off and, you know, blame everything but himself, but he still stuck around and, you know, probably understood on some level he was fucked, you know. He didn't just say, well, all right, y'all have a good day and try to get in his truck and leave, you know. That's what these foreigners do. I've seen him at the way stations. They were towing this guy's truck, and he still thought he was getting in his truck to leave. They're like, "What are you talking about? We're towing your shit, partner." He was like just confused, like he thought he was driving out of there. Like, no, man, what are you talking about? We already pulled you over once today and told you not to drive, and then you drove to here, so we're going to tow your truck. And, you know, I remember in Arkansas, I moved to Hot Springs many years ago. You know, the cop would be But whoever else was there drove off, and both cars, neither one of them had license plates. Because half the fucking town was driving around without registration. And so what eventually happens is the city and the state troopers eventually are like, well, fuck this, and they start towing everybody's shit. And then next thing you know, surprise, surprise, people got plates on their car. It takes a year or two, but you go there today, and most of the cars got license plates. I'm telling you, when I moved there, 50% of all the cars in the town did not even have a license plate. And I'm not talking about tip tags. I'm no plate. Well, you tow enough people's shit and the word gets out. Well, you start just towing their fucking rig the first time you pull them over, and they're not keeping logs and they don't speak English. Well, sorry, buddy. We're going to give you an hour to gather your belongings, and we're going to help you get a ride out of here. But here's the address of the tow yard where your company come pick up their equipment. And Arkansas culture, we don't feel bad for you. So the DOT, the fact that they haven't been doing that is because they've been ordered from the higher ups. So if it's a red state with a red president, how can you tell me that's the Democrats did that? Not in Arkansas. That wasn't Democrats did that in Arkansas. Absolutely not. What do you mean? How did Democrats do that? Now, if you want to go back to Clinton, okay, well, but then you'd have to admit that this has been happening since Clinton. So then you'd have to admit it was happening under W. Bush. Then you'd have to admit it was happening under first term Trump. But if it's all Biden's fault, then we can say, oh, look, second term Trump's fixing it. And see, people don't understand America's already North Korea, because I'm on the trucker forums and somebody starts a thread about how the secretary of the DOT is cleaning up trucking, and somebody's had AI make a cartoon of, is it Duthie, Sean Duthie, or I don't know what the guy's name is. And it's got a cartoon drawing version of like a muscle man, lean, mean fighting machine with a trim waist and a muscular body. And, he's wearing a button up t-shirt, but you can see his wife beater below, he's got sex appeal. He's a Chad. And, the cartoon is almost like a political cartoon from the newspaper. And there's a bunch of crashed big rigs in the ditch. And it says, like illegal drivers or whatever over the top of the big rigs. And then Duthie's got them all chained up, and he's got a big old chain, big old metal chain over his shoulder, and he's pulling them out of the ditch, right? He's cleaning up the industry. And I just typed in the chat, I said, I don't like seeing that kind of imagery. I said, that looks like something that comes out of North Korea and their dear leader. And I said, I bet you Sean Duthie, the man's got a muffin top. I bet you he's not lean and mean and athletic and muscular. If you that's bullshit. He don't look like that. Yeah, he's probably not fat. Now, he might be skinny fat. But can we face the reality that the vast majority of everybody that works in these type of jobs is not athletic and is not trim and muscular, right? And so Trump, is really promoting this idea, and the AI is conspiring in a lot of ways. You see like Trump is Superman, Trump is this, and Trump is that. He's obese, right? Well, middle America's obese. So yeah, middle America wants to see themselves as rootin' tootin', and in their mind they think they can do some shit. I'm 50 years old. I drive a truck. Hey, how about I strap on a certain percentage of my body weight into a rucksack, and then we'll take that same percentage of body weight and we'll give it to one of these a 35-year-old obese middle American redneck or whatever that thinks he's rootin' tootin'. It's like, all right, well, today we fucking force march all day, and then we're just gonna march all day. We're gonna take breaks. We'll take our shoes off and let our feet dry, and we'll have water. We're walking all motherfucking day at a pretty good clip. That's what I'm talking about. Because it's somebody that's muscular and fit and athletic. I was in bed for 3 months. Day one of the doctor told me I could walk. I'm medically cleared to walk. The next day I walked 17 motherfucking miles. Okay. I was in bed for 3 months. So yeah, people have sort of a mental image of themselves. Is it anywhere near reality? That's my question. Right. Oh, but so Sean Duthie is supposedly metaphorically performing these things. Okay, but why do we need to physically show him he looks like a taller version of Patrick's and handsome in the face in the cartoon. Looks like a taller, more broader shouldered version of Patrick Swayze from Roadhouse. I'm not kidding. So a taller, more Chad-like Patrick Swayze from Roadhouse is cleaning up the trucking industry, apparently. And if you're going to tell me you can't pinch a motherfucking inch, that J.D. Vance out there training with the SEALs with his muffin top. And look, I'm 50. Fuck, I've been through chronic illness. I got I got some love handles. You can't see them. I can tuck my shirt in. You can't see my goddamn spare tire when I tuck in my t-shirt. I'm physically now. I ain't got no shoulders to speak of. That's just how I'm built. But I'm gonna tell you right now, I look more trim, and I'm 15 years older than JD Vance. If I went out there to train with the SEALs, I would look better in my uniform, whatever they train in. And the pictures of me going up and down them obstacles, the only criticism might be, well, he's, a little scrawny in the upper body. Right. And I don't know that JD Vance is, but yeah, he's built a little huskier than I am. Sure. If we trim the fat off of him, he's probably still got a little more muscle than I do. That's fine. It's a joke. But meanwhile, this is what people don't understand about the youth. Yeah, Gen Z men are skewing conservative. Yeah, they are. Except you've already got Clavicular, the looks maxing 20-something-year-old, 23-year-old looks maxer with a big social media following. And he said, yeah, and I think he probably does like Trump on some level. That doesn't mean he's going to marry himself to conservatism and the Republican Party. All that means is he likes Trump. That's it. Because why? Because Trump, is still somewhat based and is a Chad, right? So that means he mogs Biden, right? So that's what Clavicular said. We said he would vote for Newsom over J.D. Vance because he said Newsom is a Chad who mogs J.D. Vance. Well, see, my generation and the boomers like Corolla, they go, oh, well, look at Gavin Newsom. He crosses his legs funny. Gen Z don't give a flying fuck about how a man crosses their legs. They don't care. that don't mean anything to them. They was raised by women. They don't care. They don't care. It's a nothing. It's a zero to them. What's not a zero is Gavin with his broad shoulders uh, and his small waist, his V taper, and he's fit and he's handsome. That's all they care about. Because he mogs Vance. Because Vance is a subhuman, obese. He's subhuman and obese. Because in Clavicular's world, you can't have a man can't have a muffin top. See, and yeah, at age 50, I'm allowed to have a little bit of a love handle and a little bit of a spare tire. Meanwhile, as long as it don't show in my clothes, JD Vance, he can't tuck in his T-shirt and go up and down the fucking SEAL Team 6, SEAL Team Hell Week SEAL Team training with it. It's like I'm looking at a muffin top, right? Well, why I shouldn't be able to see this motherfucker's muffin top? Do you think JD Vance can do a single military pull-up? I bet you Gavin Newsom can. I bet you Gavin Newsom can do at least one dead hang pull-up. Do you really imagine? Go look at a picture of JD Vance training with the Navy SEALs and say, if we put him on a pull-up bar at the locked out position, if his life depended on it, without kipping, could he get his fucking chin over the bar? I don't know how old Gavin Newsom is, but 50-year-old Gavin Newsom, I can. 50-year-old Gavin Newsom can. Hell, Rahm Emanuel probably can. Trump can't. Alex Jones can't. You just look at him. That's not a person that can do a pull-up. Now, Alex, you can probably put him on a pull-up bar, and he'll probably jump up there and, underhand it, and he'll do enough of a curl that he'll, if you don't hold him to a lockout, I'll be like, well, that was 0 pull-ups, Alex. What are you talking about? If you don't lock out at the bottom, that's a 0, partner. This is military. You've done 0 pull-ups. So let me know when you're ready to start. That wasn't a pull-up, partner. And see, Republicans think that's what they stand for. So, well, okay, let's do military dead hang pull-ups. Trump 0, JD Vance 0, Gavin Newsom. Now, Trump's not expected to do any because he's elderly. Guess what? Biden's not expected to do any. He's elderly, so they're off the table. But Vance versus Newsom, 0 for Vance, and we got at least 1, maybe 2, maybe 3. Who knows? I don't know. Could be more. I have no fucking idea. And to a 22-year-old man, that makes Newsom a Chad, and his handsome face, whether you like it or not, compared to JD Vance, who's something of an ogre, right? At least Trump was, somewhat handsome in his day, and some would say quite handsome. Let's not forget Bill Clinton, and I just read this somewhere, so who even knows, but they're talking about the attractiveness of the U.S. presidents, and, women apparently, they responded well, and they've responded well to a lot of presidents historically, but, they did like JFK, although I don't know that he was necessarily considered traditionally handsome, but they say there was really only ever been one outlier president when it comes to their looks in modern history, and they said that was Bill Clinton, who basically scores off the charts in the male model territory. I shit you not, for his facial attractiveness. And men will just shake their head and go, we don't know what you're talking about. Exactly, because you don't know what a woman finds attractive. You have no fucking idea, most of you. That's okay. Watch the broads. They know. Watch old Bill. Not now because but even in his 60s. Watch when old Bill comes sniffing around. Watch all their faces light up. Watch them start primping and adjusting. Turning their head and sort of poofing out their hair and shit. The fucking lefty chicks with their bobs will be trying to do that shit. For fuck's sake. It's programmed into humans. They don't control that. It's a natural response. It's not all looks. Some of it is the power, also the power dynamics. So I've had enough of these old fogies that want to. Oh, Gen Z don't want to work. Good. You want something to change? Good. Quit slaving for these corporations. And the millennial helicopter parents, you know, they're not having it. Not their baby, not their precious. Send them off into this big bad world with no living wage. Crazy. And I've been seeing it for years on YouTube, or in these true crime stories. Somebody's become or homeless. Homeless content. Somebody ends up growing up and never left mommy and daddy's house, and uh, then mommy passes away, and they weren't able to keep the house, and now this finally at age 50 or whatever, this you got a grown ass man, you know, left his own devices. And yeah, in the old days, that would have been pathetic for him to hang out at the house till age 50 or 60 or whatever, taking and then eventually, taking care of his elderly sick parent or whatever. But economically, nowadays, it makes total sense. And I'm not advocating for that. I'm saying, hey, I think it's better for the 50 something to leave home. I was 17 and left home to go to college. That's better for me, right? That's what's better for me. However, even then, I could still work full time, have a roommate, and take care of my basic living expenses. That shit is over. It's never coming back. So now you got people like this dispatcher, and he's taking a risk, and Uber Freight is lying. Uber Freight's intentionally sending his truck to not be able to make a delivery over the weekend. And now he gets to come into the office on Saturday because for some reason his internet wasn't working at home. And he gets to work all day Saturday because he's trying to keep his wife at home to raise his daughter, right? So he's trying to live what is supposed to be the American dream. And part of that is he's got to have a high enough income, and he's working on commission. See what it is? See what I'm talking about? Those type of people, well, that's a competition, see, and that's risk taking. And what that boils down to is not everybody can do that. Some folks aptitude and risk taking and all of this, they're just gonna have to go work at a grocery store, right? Now in 1980, and by 83, it was the worst job market of our lifetimes, if you're old like me or older. You couldn't just get a job at the grocery store. Because the first thing that happens when the economy goes to shit is everybody hangs on to their job. And if they got multiple jobs, they hang on to multiple jobs. And if they've only got one job, everybody tries to start getting a second job. That's it. And like I say, I knew a fella. I was acquainted with a fella back in 2010, 2011, and he knew a little bit about the economy, not a lot, but he knew enough to talk to me about it. And I knew a little more than him, but I didn't know a lot either. But I was in the process of educating myself about the economy coming out, out of the bailouts, 0809 bailout. And it was this idea of Americans to this day say, well, you can always go work at McDonald's. It's like, no, you cannot. You can't just wander into McDonald's and get hired. And you damn sure can't wander into McDonald's and be guaranteed 40 hours. That's just nonsense. So the fact that boomers and Gen X will just say, oh, you can always go flip burgers. Bullshit. So what he told me was, he said, I'm not hiring. He said, these people are hanging on to these jobs, and looking for another job if this is their only job. So these are hardworking people. You can make fun of them all you want. They show up because who do you think keeps those jobs? Right? It's the people that will show up and not call out and call in sick a bunch, right? And are halfway competent. It's not rocket science. But, they don't have the fucking aptitude or the knowledge to go try to work on commission somewhere, or, just don't have the salesman skills or whatever. Or the first time some trucker starts yelling at them on the phone, they're going to quit. They got the defective personality. They can't just take an earful from a broker or a driver or their boss without quitting. This dispatcher, he's doing whatever he's got to do to make a life for his daughter, right? And that's what America supposedly is about, right? Well, it's not, because it's about Uber Freight taking over. Of course, it's about Amazon and Uber Freight taking over portions of the and simultaneously making it harder for these family men to provide for their families outside of a big corporate context, right? So yeah, this dispatcher, he could probably go to Amazon and work his way up and play the politics and let them send him to college if he's probably got a bachelor's, but let them send him to get higher education, and he can go through all the training they offer, and he can play the politics. But if they're going to pay him $250,000 a year, they're going to take $1 million out of his ass. I promise you. Versus at the trucking company, he can maybe make 175, but they're not going to take 500 out of his ass. They're going to get their 175 out of him and call it a day, right? And I'm going to make 80 if I work a whole year, but they're going to get their 80 G's out of it. What they're not going to do is get 180 out of it, because I'm not going to let them. Because remember, Amazon, if they could pay him less, they would. So they're paying some of their middle management's making 180 to 250, right? And the minute Amazon can lay them off, it's going to lay them off. The minute Amazon can pay them less, it will. Meanwhile, the guy that owns and operates this trucking company, the minute the AI can be even 75% as productive uh, as this dispatcher will be replaced by an algorithm. Period. End of story. Now, is this guy already teaching himself how to use AI? See, because the very last human dispatching a fleet of trucks somewhere will be an expert level practitioner in the arts of AI. Right. He'll be like a concert pianist of programming the AI. Right. In real time. He'll have a fucking VR headset on. When you see in the movies, it's like, oh, a VR headset, and it's fucking Tony Stark and the Avengers swiping through these menus and shit in a virtual space, and it'll be some version of that, like for real. The maestro conducting his orchestra, and then the AI will be watching and learning the whole way, and then it'll say, the fucking Hal from 2001 voice will say, come over the loudspeaker or whatever and say, well, thank you for your service, but we've proven our level of performance has matched yours within an acceptable standard, so have a nice life. Or it'll just direct him to the nearest fucking suicide booth. I mean, whatever. And if you think I'm joking, it's like I kind of am, but it's not that hyperbolic, right? I mean, it's already Ready Player One to some extent. We can, Wings of Redemption, if you know who that is. He's a lolcow and he's obese and he plays video games for quite a meager existence, and sleeps fucking 14 hours a day apparently. But isn't that pretty much as close as a human can get to a suicide booth without actually going into a suicide booth? Right? I mean, I wouldn't consider that to be a so-called life, right? And if you think he's the only one, you're fooling yourself. Now, part of that is growing up in the South and understanding just culturally how to live on nothing. Again, subsistence. And Americans still think it's prosperity, half of them. Or they think, hey, where did our prosperity go and when is it coming back? It's subsistence. And it's always been subsistence. And part of the lies of the system is to convince the proletariat that subsistence has somehow been prosperity. No, it's never not been subsistence, which is to survive on a minimum of resources. That's what subsist means. Surviving on a minimum of resources. Or you got people like Benton who problem solve and say, well, I like to drive. I wouldn't call this travel, but, I don't mind living on the road. This looks a little icy. Or is this wet? See, that's the question. Because once they treat the roads well enough, now we got narcissists on the other side of the road thinks I'm bright lighting them. It's like, no, man, I'm trying to see what I'm looking at in front of me on the road. But thanks for immediately bright lighting me back. That's helpful. Trying to assess the road conditions in real time. So I've problem solved and combined income, uh, job, living situation all into one thing. And hilariously, as a result, you know, I don't have a problem of how do I pay for this and how do I have to pay for that. I have another problem, which is so I'm looking at my account. I'm like, well, I really don't, I'm not comfortable with the amount of money that's stacking up because at a certain point, if the government hasn't been notified, they're going to, there's going to be some threshold of, you know, whatever the bank is going to need to contact the feds. It's like, okay, how can I physically get this money out of this account? And I'm not asking for suggestions. It's an actual problem in a way. Then I'm looking at the faces of my fellow Walmart shoppers while they're freaked out and trying to figure out what to leave behind that they normally purchase. And I'm just, not a care in the world as far as just here's my basket. Only thing I'm worried about is what am I forgetting? I'm $185 and I'm hitting the $100 cash back button every time. Again, waking dreams, and I'm not rich certainly, but waking dreams surrealistic unreality. If I want to buy something right now, I can just buy it. Don't even have to. I've been looking at mini PCs, and I'm probably not going to buy one, but fuck, why not? I can get a mini PC and 2 monitors for less than $400. I can probably get 2 portable monitors, a mini PC, and a wireless keyboard and a mouse with tax for $400. Fuck, why wouldn't I? Be crazy not to. Maybe I just will. It's still you talk about inflation till you blue in the face. Certain things are just ridiculously cheap. Phones have gone up, but I would say phones are still. Well, I'd say they're just now Well, it depends. I've done a lot of phone shopping over the last 6 months to a year. Just depends on what you're trying to do, but because remember, I'm only looking at unlocked phones, and I'm mostly going brand new. Although I did go renewed this time, and it seems to be working out. The brand new, well, the new to me Pixel 9 Pro XL, which, yeah, the battery life is hot garbage. Other than that, and it does get a little warmer than I would like. Other than that, not bad. Oh, and the goddamn Android 16, it looks like a child's toy. You want to talk about the infantilization of America? Like, why does my software on my pocket computer, my mobile pocket computer, look like a child's toy? So that's annoying. But if a person's just doing basic shit and doesn't really care about performance, you get a really good Motorola phone on Amazon unlocked, $130. Or if you're like, okay, you might want to play some casual fucking, game out of the app store, $199. And of course, the cheaper phone will still play it. I'd say that's still pretty fucking cheap. And I'm not dropping $1,000 on a phone at this point, no matter what. So, that's not relevant. And if I had an address, I could have gotten a, brand new Pixel 10 for about $400 plus tax. But I'd rather have the slightly bigger screen from the XL, and my research indicates the Pixel 10 is the first one they've made with it does not take a physical SIM card. It's a eSIM only, and it's like, I've used my phone just with an eSIM, so I'm comfortable with that. But overall, I think I'd prefer to have the option of a physical SIM. And I'm on physical SIM with the eSIM for my multi-network feature. Shout out to US Mobile. Very happy. I don't recommend anything, but I'm extremely happy with US Mobile. And now some of that is my needs may not be the same as your needs. And I move around enough that, you know, if you are mostly in one area, it's really going to come down to, you know, generally in most areas, there's one carrier that works the best. And, you know, that in a lot of places, that's T-Mobile. But for trucking, I'm pretty much married to Verizon or AT&T. And then I'd like to have T-Mobile as a secondary option. But with truck driving, if I'm for multi-network, I got to go Verizon and AT&T because there's too many times when T-Mobile's just doesn't work at all in the boonies, and then if Verizon doesn't work in those particular boonies, it's like, well, this is crazy because AT&T will almost always work if Verizon ain't working. If that makes sense. Hardly ever is it just no AT&T, no Verizon, and it's almost guaranteed you're looking at no T-Mobile if that's the case. And of course, that's more of a tower situation than a network congestion situation. I got to San Francisco on a US Mobile, and for whatever reason, Verizon, which was my only network, it was basically unusable. And so I said, well, you know, I know US Mobile's got this, they call it, I forget what they call it, but it comes with my unlimited service. It's like I got 2 times they'll let me switch networks for free. So it's basically like I'm signed on to Verizon, but I get AT&T or T-Mobile for free. So I just said, fuck it. Switched over to T-Mobile. It worked great. So then I got down to LA and said, well, fuck it. T-Mobile works here. I just stayed on T-Mobile for the whole time. Eventually ended up back on Verizon when I went back to truck driving because I had to. So that, you know, again, and I like paying for a year because when I'm working, I got plenty of money to I just pay for a whole year of service, paid for a whole year of car insurance. Just pay it off, and move on with my life. With this, move on with this protracted experience of death, right? So while Americans are after paying burritos, I'm paying for an entire year of car insurance, paying cash for cars, fucking paying for a cash for an unlocked phone. So half the reason why people go to postpaid cell service with a contract is so they can get the latest and greatest phone and pay it on monthly payments. I'm paying cash for unlocked phones, and I can take it to any carrier day one. Now that's not the case with every unlocked phone. You got to be careful. Some of those phones, even though they're unlocked, they just won't work with certain carriers. But Motorola is really good about pretty much working on everything for the most part. And then you got to watch out for US Mobile. It's like, oh, Benton said this multi-network is the best thing ever. Except if you don't have the right phone, eSIM will not work with your phone on US Mobile, and unless your phone supports dual fucking physical SIM, you're out of luck. And most of them don't, to my understanding. You can't just assume the shit's gonna work. You dig? I think you do. Yet another reason to go with the Pixel that fully eSIM supported on US Mobile. All the Pixels are. It's like, yeah, I wish I'd kept my old Google account that I deleted back in the day because I thought I was going to get out of the whole Google verse. Here I am in the belly of the beast with a fucking Google branded phone. So yeah, I might have to go ahead and get me a mini PC, even if I don't use it in the short term. It's just got too much utility. Slap Linux on that bad boy, and away we go. I wouldn't run Windows if you paid me. And hell, I don't remember what I was doing, but I was somewhere in public recently and did something on, they had a Windows PC. And I moved the mouse and clicked the button, double clicked on whatever, and it just immediately crashed. And then whoever worked there was like, saw that, was wondering what was happening, and I was just like, oh no, it's Windows. It knows to just immediately crash to remind me that I wouldn't use Windows if you paid me, meaning on my own computer. Oh shit. Here's the first snowplow of the day. Snowplow just, which I'm glad they're out here, but snowplow just busted a Yui in front of me. He's hauling balls though. For a snowplow. He's almost going as fast as I'm going. He's trying to be done. He must have worked all night. Yeah, he's hitting the exit. His shift's probably about over. I know that way of driving. He said, get me to the house. Salt coming out the back. And just now pulled that plow up. But I know this, if I got to drive through a snowstorm and Iowa is potentially on the route, we're going to look at that route first. I trust them when it comes to snow. Arkansas, hell no. Dallas, Fort Worth, hell no. Abilene, Texas, well, I don't trust them, but there's not enough motherfuckers out there to get in my way necessarily. But you got low population for the amount of area. It's like, oh, blue cities, blue cities. They're all blue. If you want to call Abilene, Texas a city, that's great. Nobody fucking lives there. It's 150,000 people. I'm just guessing. Right? What are you talking about? I'm the type of dude, I physically looked up what is the county, what's the mayor, what's the county fucking commission, what's the city council, the county officials, the city officials, what's their political affiliation. And I looked at, you got to get to like the 26th city and county in Texas by population before it goes red. Everything else is blue, except, and I think it was like, oh, we're like Fort Worth. You have like your rare exception. But even Fort Worth was like highly mixed. It wasn't like it was all Republican. It was just like more Republican than Democrat. From memory, I don't know. You'd have to double check. Because, oh, here I am listening to the Social Security lawyer who thinks he understands politics. And he does a little bit. But he wants to just break everything into red and blue states. And he's trying to call Kentucky red, and I'm like, well, why is the governor blue? How are you going to tell me Kentucky's a red state and they got a goddamn blue governor? What are you talking about? Meanwhile, Virginia is a blue state. They might have a Republican governor every once in a while. It's still a blue state. North Carolina is a blue state. Same thing. Yeah, they might fucking willy-nilly have a Republican governor. It doesn't turn them into a red. They're still blue. Once the shit goes blue, it don't go back, folks. Texas will go blue and it will stay blue. But yeah, will they just every once in a while have a Republican governor? Sure. Guess what? California used to be that way. Now that ship is. I don't know that you'll ever see another. Not in our lifetimes probably, but. And I know 1980. Reagan became president in 1980, and yeah, that was a long time ago. But he was governor of motherfucking California. Hell, so was Schwarzenegger. When was that? When was Schwarzenegger's last year of governor of California? Hell, Jesse Ventura was governor of Minnesota. Now, I understand not a Republican, but certainly not a Democrat. And here's something folks may not realize. Apparently, it's the most popular governor in the history of the whole fucking state, Jesse Ventura. And, Arnold is basically a Californian, regardless of the Republican thing. And remember, Orange County, that's fairly conservative down there, lest we forget. Arnold, every once in a while, he's spotted just riding his fucking e-bike around Santa Monica or whatever. Like he's a Southern Californian. He moved there in what, the 60s, right? For bodybuilding. And then people can't even figure out that Adam Carolla is a so-called liberal. It's like he's born and raised in Los Angeles. What, I mean, they don't produce conservatives. What are you talking about? Why? Because his mom was growing a pot when he grew up with his mom growing a pot plant in the backyard. And now all of a sudden Republicans say it's you can have pot. So now he's a conservative. It doesn't even make sense. They're going to turn Bill Maher into a conservative. If that doesn't show people that there's no such thing as conservatism. It just doesn't exist. It's a fucking game. It's a lie. It's a psyop. It does not exist. You got zero conservative politicians. You got zero conservative corporate executives. Not one. And just start naming them, and I'll debunk them. I'll say, well, they did this. Donald Trump, blah blah blah. Donald Trump, out of his own mouth, is in favor of a weaker dollar. What does that sound like to you? Does that sound like a traditional family values Christian conservative who's America first? Wants to do whatever he can to intentionally weaken the dollar? Well, but wait a minute. Here's the dirty little secret: is not conservatism, but republicanism is about little people, poor people, fend for yourself. Let's support the small business, the medium-sized business, and the corporations. And if a weaker dollar does that in the short to near term, let's do that. That's what's going to be best for Trump's crony buddies, right? Guess what? Same goes for Gavin Newsom and Biden and all these people. They're all in bed with corporations. Same fucking thing. There's no difference. You know, how does Nancy Pelosi make her money? Corporations. In all of human history, nobody has ever hard worked their way into wealth. Not once. It ain't possible. You know, Mark Cuban can run around claiming to have more or less invented streaming and become a billionaire. No, he fucked over people in business, which is fine. I mean, that is within the bounds of fair play, but he didn't bust his ass. He hustled and created a lot of opportunities for himself, and he fucked over his business partner who didn't understand business enough to protect himself. And the guy still probably made enough money to retire and didn't give a shit because he's an egghead computer programmer type. And anyway, I got to get out of here. I got a bathroom break calling. So thanks for watching. Bye.